Incoming transmission. Radio Rebellion.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Welcome to another episode of Radio Rebellion, a Star Wars podcast. I am your host, as always, Alberto Calderon. You can see my name down there. You know who I am. You're always here. Thanks for joining us on another great Saturday evening. It's nice out here in Florida, finally. Spring is in the air. Had a nice day today. Sunny. It's a little hazy, not too hot. But we're saying goodbye to our Florida winters, which I know it's not a politest thing to say, because some people out there in the north and west coast are really suffering with their winters. But here in Florida, we get cold also a little bit. It doesn't matter. We're here to talk Star Wars, not the weather. That's why your 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock news are for. And although our guest does talk a lot about news and how they pertain to Star Wars and politics, we'll bring him up in a few minutes. Today we are reviewing, oh my goodness, Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. I finally get to talk about this book. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you know, after I read this book, as I was reading it, I probably posted something on Twitter at the end of every chapter, just how good it was. And probably for about 2 weeks after that, just everything just kept going on in my mind. So I'm finally going to talk about it with my great guest that I'll tell him when he comes in. So, you know, one more thing. How was your guys' week? Any Star Wars things going out there for you guys? I'll say I got this. Man, I got something in my eye. Sorry, just scratching myself crazy now. So I got this great painting from Jake Bartok. He did his medieval Mandalorian, and then I finally got it framed. I just gotta find a place for it back here. Look at that! Oh my goodness, Jake Bartok out. He's great. He's great out there. So. All right, hopefully my eye doesn't get too red and start freaking you guys out. So hopefully that hair is one of my dog's hair. All right, enough about that. So my next guest for today's show, it's a brand new podcast, started a few months ago. It's gaining track. They have a very unique podcast out there. It's not just your regular news of the week like a lot of us do. It's very unique. So I'm really excited to bring from the 60 Minutes one of the co-hosts, Andres Alvarez. Andres, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on, Alberto. How are you?
I'm doing great also, Andres. We got a chance to talk a little bit before we started. And just a lazy Saturday, just enjoying the day. It's a weekend. Tomorrow, daylight savings time starts, which I know it's not the best. I know. No more sleeping in. But at least we get an hour. It sucks. We'll just say it. We're not fans of daylight saving time. Growing up in Puerto Rico, we didn't know what that was. We only knew that all the TV shows from cable were going to be an hour behind. And that messed up our day, especially as kids, because we had to go to sleep earlier and we didn't get to watch our shows. Now as adults, we just get less sleep because we got to wake up earlier. And it doesn't make sense. But it is what it is.
I get Mondays off from my job, and the time that I love it the most is the daylight savings weekends, because it's just like I either get to sleep in more or I lose an hour, but that's fine. Like I have nothing to do that day. I just clear the schedule.
Yeah, that's the way to go. All right, so tell a little bit about yourself before we start. So you guys are a new podcast, pretty recent. You guys started. So yeah, just explain how 60 Minutes. We get Sith, you got your Sith Eternal emblem there. Yes. 60 Minutes. You're always on Twitter talking about Star Wars and politics, how you can't separate both. But it's not just talking about politics in Star Wars, your podcast.
Right.
Can you explain to people that might not have the chance to listen to it yet what it is about and how you and your co-host came up with the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially the idea was, you hear folks on Twitter all the time of like, oh, like I like Star Wars, but I don't like when it gets political. And that always drove like myself, Des, Roberto and Paula, our other co-hosts, just kind of up a wall because we all come from different marginalized identities, whether it's like 2 of us are first-generation immigrants, 3 of us are bilingual, and Spanish was our first language, so we come from that household. And then one of our co-hosts is also part of the LGBT community. So, for us, when we engage with Star Wars, there was a part of it that was escapism, but it was also where we learned a lot of lessons as far as like, when is it right to stand up and fight? What are different ways that evil can take over? Because they blew up Alderaan, but if you watch Revenge of the Sith, like, it's ultimately a vote. Like, Palpatine just spreads a lie and just gets that vote to go in his favor. Which is
nothing like politics in real life, right?
Right. It's like that would never happen, right? Like the stormtroopers would never go up into the Jedi temple and just burn it in real life.
People up,
crazy. So that was really the big catalyst of it, as we saw more and more people kind of subscribing to the notion that Star Wars isn't political, or it was okay until it got political. So we have that conversation. But the other part is since we do it as a weekly podcast, is we wanted to take the biggest political news in the real world, quote unquote, and kind of apply that Star Wars lens to it. So our last episode, we actually talked about Chirrut Inway's line in Rogue One saying that there's more than one type of prison, and we use that to describe like student loan debt, and then also ICE facilities in the United States, and kind of the conditions in those different facilities. So just giving people like a way to use the galaxy as a tool, because like those stories have already been told. Like the beauty of the Skywalker saga is it literally spans 3 generations of folks. So then you can see like, what does it look like as these different policies play out, and what are the lessons that need to be learned in each era and whatnot. So it's been pretty fun. We first started and thought like we could probably do 2 or 3 episodes, no problem, but the topics just keep flowing. So we've been very thankful for that.
I mean, right now, politics it's encapsulating everything in our daily lives. I remember growing up, we don't care about politics really. They're just boring. You don't want anything to deal with it. But as you get older and then you start paying more attention, then you see how everything is related. And unfortunately, past few years and even now, it's everywhere. Everything that's happening in politics from before, previous administration to now, it's still so ingrained in everything. So I don't think you're going to be running out of topics soon. When you guys started thinking about doing a podcast, was that something that you had thought about for a little bit, or just decided, hey, let's just start off and go straight to this politic angle? Or did you go through a progression till you find what you guys wanted to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have been podcasting now for, I want to say, if not 3 years, then 4 years. My first podcast was with Ian Anderson, and it was called 2 Dudes and a Story. So just as it was described, just 2 guys, we'd watch a movie and then just talk about it. But even from then, I knew I wanted to do something Star Wars related. And Ian just gave me the advice of like, hey, do literally anything else and just kind of like build up your skills before you jump into that dream project. So I did that. 2 Dudes and a Story transformed into Story Sages. So that one is still live with 2 other hosts. Then I did Everything Racism Ruins, which was like a monthly political podcast. And that one, like, I'm not doing anymore, but that's when the opportunity kind of rose up. And the other co-hosts I found have like varying degrees of experience, either with like audio equipment. Des, one of our co-hosts, used to do some radio programming. And then Roberto and Paula both have microphones, and Roberto's doing like his own first podcast. So, I took all of their skill sets and I was like, look, I've been doing the other podcast for long enough that I know how to make a soundboard, how to make that whole suite and actually edit it and put it out. And then with the rest of them, we've just been kind of getting ourselves more comfortable and just kind of moving from there. But I definitely had to progress my skills because there's, as you definitely know as well, Alberto, but there's so many Star Wars podcasts, channels, magazines, blogs, like you name it. So it really is about like honing and figuring out like where in that galaxy do we want to play in, and that's where, you know, I just wasn't seeing anyone putting the two together. But you know, every Star Wars fan who's like been all around the galaxy knows that it's got these really political overtones. So I'm like, I know it'll hit with that audience. It's just a matter of like actually blending the two, because so many podcasts and different channels don't. And that definitely takes some kind of skill and finesse as far as like, what are we going to do and how are we going to do it?
Yeah. I mean, Star Wars, not even talking about the original trilogy and everything, Vietnam War that George Lucas kind of used to start this. The prequels start with a political scene, and that's what a lot of people complain about. Politics in Star Wars didn't make so in your face. And now as we get older, because a lot of people watch those as younger kids, teenagers, now moving up, politics is really important in Star Wars, and it has driven the story for 40 years. It might not have been the most entertaining talking about taxation routes, but the main theme about the corruption of the political system in Star Wars was there from the beginning. It's the more you start, okay, forget about the execution, just the story itself of the prequels. It's probably the best story. And you're completely right. I'm still working on it, how to try to differentiate yourself from thousands upon thousands of Star Wars podcasts out there. We started doing weekly news and then something else, and then that's what everyone else does. And right now there's no news really, so we'll just be filling time. So I'm still on my third season. This is almost my 60th episode. Still trying to decide what's the best way to kind of get in there. But all right, so before we start, one final question that we ask everyone. I'm sure you know what's coming. It's, what's your Star Wars story? How did you get into Star Wars? Do you remember your first memory?
So I don't remember when I first started like watching the movies. I do remember that like the original like VHS special editions was something that I had in my house. And I remember being a huge fan of episode 1 Racer on N64. And when my mom was dating my future stepdad, he sold me because he had a big screen TV. So I was like, oh, I can pod race on a giant screen. Like, yeah, we're done here. But I grew up in the prequel trilogy, so like that's the ones that I remember seeing in the theater. I was so stoked by episode 3 that like the first time I saw it, I needed to use the bathroom around the time that Anakin pledged himself to Palpatine. And I literally held it in and was just like squirming next to my stepdad. And he's like, dude, what was going on? Like afterwards, I was like, he literally just became Vader. I was not about to walk out and go. And, you know, this is before streaming. So it's like, we're not going to buy this ticket again and watch this whole thing just so I can say I saw the entire movie, including those 10 minutes I missed. So prequel trilogy, definitely where I like kind of grew up as far as like my first theater experience with it. And yeah, I've been super into it, and the politics angle at the same time. I think episode 3 was the first movie that showed me a villain that, you know, the play wasn't killing, you know, all these people with a bunch of like super crazy weapons or whatnot. It was really this like finesse of like, oh, the clones, like they've been there the whole time, and Order 66, and like that montage of just like, dang, they really did just like trust them and just got a laser to the back, like easy as that. So yeah, I think that was the first time that I was like, okay, not every villain has to be like, oh, I got the Death Star and like now I'm just going to blow up the planet where all my enemies are. It can be this really long game plan and whatnot. Yeah,
just pitting your enemies against each other. Just from a psychological mindset, or not even psychological, just playing the long game. Just do this, do that. Oh, I'm captured by the enemy. No, I did everything. So Palpatine, that's why he's top. He's top always.
Yeah, top tier.
All right, so before we start, let's say hi to a few of our guests here on the chat. As always, our friend Dale. Dale, how you doing? Saying hello to both myself and Andres. Thank you, Dale, for being here. Our guest from last week, Salacious Rum, his human counterpart, Bob Rum. Hello, Alberto and Andres from Salacious Rum, the Kawakia Monkey Lizard Army. If you guys haven't seen last week's episode, after you're done with this one, go check it out. We had a lot of fun last week talking about our favorite creatures in the Skywalker saga. Salacious and Bob are great guests. I can't wait to do it again. Hopefully at some point I'll get on his show soon. Great people out there. So go check that out. our friend Kat. How you doing, Kat? Saying Vader's Girl 28, saying hi to everyone. So yeah, we are here. Oh, she's having a winter storm right now. I'm sorry, Kat, saying it was sunny here in Florida. I'm sorry, but it does happen. I have a brother in Boston, so every time I complain that it's a little bit cold, he'll just send me a picture from his backyard, and then I gotta shut up because he gets like 8 inches of snow every time. So, all right, so we're here to talk Into the Dark by Claudia Gray, and I'm glad, Andres, that you contacted me early because I had 3 people total. As soon as I started tweeting about Into the Dark, 3 people that reached out, hey, whenever you're going to talk about Into the Dark, I want to be there. I'll be your guest. But you were the first one. You guys from 60 Minutes sent me a Twitter message. You DM me, hey, one of our co-hosts is ready to talk about this if you want. So I reached out. Yeah, sure, let's do this. Following day, I had someone in the chat, I think, told me that they wanted to come in. I said, sorry, I already have someone. And then another person, Arsu Amin, she's gonna be here in about a month, 4 weeks from now. She'll be here. We'll do a whole High Republic. We'll talk about all 3 books, just kind of a summary of everything that's been going on. She's very into High Republic. Those people that love Martian Row. So it's gonna be a lot of fun when she comes in. But today, Andres is here, and we're talking Into the Dark. But before we start, as always, if you're watching this on the live chat, make sure to like the video. Let us know in the chat your thoughts about Into the Dark. This is going to be obviously a spoiler review, so hopefully you've read the book. If you don't mind getting spoiled, then just stay on because we're going to spoil the hell out of it. So like the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. We are up to 94 subscribers, so 6 more to get to 100. Like I've been saying, once we get to 100, we'll do either a live commentary of a movie or a TV episode or an arc of a TV show. Or if not, we'll just do a recorded commentary of something. So we got to get to 100 first, and then we'll decide where to go. And if you're watching this later in the replay, make sure to leave your comments below regarding Into the Dark, any questions that you might have. If you're listening to this later on the audio podcast, make sure that you're also subscribed to it so you don't miss anything. And leave us a rating and a review. It's always good to hear from you guys what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and we'll try to fix anything. All right, so that's it. Into the Dark. Here we go. So if you guys are ready, I know I'm ready. Let's talk Star Wars. Into the Dark spoiler review by Claudia Gray. So I don't know about you, Andres, but as soon as I heard Claudia Gray is writing another Star Wars book, I was over the moon. And I'm sorry to use that phrase, but I was over the moon excited, like my daughter's teacher said one day, because Claudia Gray hasn't missed. I don't know you or people out there in the chat if you read her stuff before, but Lost Stars. Let's start with it. Lost Stars, arguably the greatest Star Wars canon book so far. I don't have it as my top 1 just because of different things, but it's probably the best story out there. Master and Apprentice, Bloodline, Into the Dark Now. I think I'm missing one, maybe. Oh, Leia, Princess of Alderaan. That's a great novel also. So Claudia Gray hasn't missed. So
and Star Wars has given her a lot of like the really big canon moments. Like when you look back through those books, like I believe the Leia, Princess of Alderaan has Leia like tap into the Force to save herself from a mudslide in like a certain segment, and Bloodline talks about that reveal of her bloodline actually getting leaked. And it's like those are huge canon moments for the book side of Star Wars that Claudia Gray gets, and like the fact that she hasn't missed, to your point, it's just like, okay, they're going to trust her with some pretty big pieces because she's gotten them before and absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, I gotta read Bloodline again. That's the first canon book that I got. I didn't read the Aftermath trilogy by Chuck Wendig. I didn't read it because the first book, from what I read, wasn't the best. It was like almost 500 pages or whatever. I said, I'm not gonna, it's too long and it hasn't gotten good reviews. But then the follow-up and the final one were pretty good from what I've heard, but I didn't get into them. Then I started hitting Bloodline. All right, I'm gonna get Bloodline. It had the tag, something before The Force Awakens or The Journey to The Force Awakens. So I was hoping for that connection. And I think I don't remember. I think I got it after the movie came out because I think it anyway came out after the movie. So I really enjoyed that book, but I was waiting for those real connections to Force Awakens, and I didn't get them. So I was a little bit disappointed, not because the book wasn't good, because it was great. Everything we learned from Leia, how the New Republic starts going downhill because Mon Mothma doesn't believe that the First Order is out there trying to regroup. Then the reveal that she's Darth Vader's daughter, because she was ready to run for chancellor. Then all this backstabbing, again, politics. That's all you for you guys. That's a big political book. So, like you mentioned, they trusted with this big book starting canon. Princess Leia of Alderaan, doing the backstory of Leia, one of the most beloved characters in Star Wars, and she knocked it. It's one of my favorite books. Master and Apprentice, come on, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. You got who else is gonna write that has one of the best Qui-Gon quotes talking about choosing the light over the dark, and then no, I just forgot one. And Lost Stars, which is the one that go to just we're just gonna tell the story, the whole story of Star Wars in this other backdrop of this love story. It's the only book, I've said it here before, it's the only book that I've teared up. I had to close out one chapter because how emotional it got between Thane and I forgot the female character. Someone will yell at me in the chat. Anyway, the relationship was built up pretty great. So yes, Claudia Gray hasn't missed, and like you said, they've trusted her with some big characters, some big moments in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh, and Mr. Rez is here. Sorry. Here we go. Mr. Rez. There's Mr. Rez. Tony, thanks for joining. All right. So, like I mentioned before we started, this is my first time reviewing one of those canon novels with a guest. So, we'll go a little bit different than I usually go. So, we'll just start talking and see where it goes. So, I'm going to go and do from the review that I wrote a few weeks ago, I broke it down a little bit so it's not too long. So I'm just going to read that real quick. My general review of Into the Dark. We'll hear your thoughts about it, and then we'll do our ratings or different sections that I do. So here we go. So I said a little bit about this before, but Into the Dark by Claudia Gray is the third novel in the High Republic, this first phase of the High Republic. So when Project Luminous was revealed to be the High Republic, it quickly became my most anticipated Star Wars project, even over the upcoming movies and TV shows. And when I heard, like I mentioned, when Claudia Gray was going to be doing one of those introductory stories, it just became my most anticipated read of the whole Republic, the whole High Republic. It shouldn't be this easy, and I know it isn't, but for Claudia Gray to write Star Wars the way she does, she has such a mastery of the Star Wars universe, its characters, but most importantly, its themes, that it doesn't matter if she's writing a love story in the backdrop of a galactic civil war with lost stars, or like Into the Dark, which is a horror story that pushes the boundaries of what it means to be a Jedi and to serve the Jedi Order. She knows what she's doing. She will make you fall in love with a rock. Yes, a rock. And if anyone hurts GEODE, we riot. And I'm sure Anders is with me on that point, right?
Yep. We riot at dawn. Don't you dare talk bad about our child.
Yeah, we'll talk more about GEODE in a minute. I can't believe I got hate because of a little post that I did, but GEODE. So Into the Dark has our main cast stranded on an abandoned space station where they will be forced to confront their past, their mistakes, and their future, not just in the Jedi Order, but whatever future they have visualized themselves having. Even though they now are present in the book, they're not the main villains of it. You could say that the main antagonist for a band of heroes is the dark side. Not just of the Force, which has a great presence here, but of their own ideals, convictions, and hopes for the future. That doesn't mean we're not introduced to one of my new favorite villains, the Drengir. Oh man, I love those Drengir. Claudia Gray brings to life homicidal warrior plants that saw everyone as meat. So steep in the dark side that even the Sith feared them and had to lock them away in the station after an ancient bonding ritual that the Jedi, in their own high knowledge, broke and removed because they know better than everyone. So in previous High Republic book entries, we've been introduced to, for the most part, to Jedi that had a good understanding of the Force and the Jedi's place in it. What some would call the ideal Jedi. I love Light of the Jedi, the way we learn about Avar Kriss and all the other Jedi, how they're all connected together. We are one with the Force. So it's that great Jedi that we were promised. Here, Claudia Gray presents us with Jedi Padawans, Knights, and even Jedi Masters that are grappling with what it means to serve the light in this Jedi Order, when it might contradict what they believe the Force is telling them is right and or wrong. Do you follow the living Force or the teachings of the Jedi Order? Are these flawed Jedi, or is the Order flawed? What happens when Jedi forsake their instincts in favor of the teachings of the Jedi Order? So it might be a little bit long, but that second half of Into the Dark, when they return to Coruscant with the idols and everything starts falling apart, that's when this book took off for me and just took it to another step. So for you, Andres, what's your general review of Into the Dark?
Yeah, I think you hit it spot on, Alberto, in just the sense like this is very much a book, whereas Light of the Jedi showed us the Jedi at their absolute best and, dealing with weird situations, but still trying to figure out like the most Jedi way to do it. The Into the Dark really shows us just a lot of flawed Jedi and folks that are just grappling. I think trauma is really like the central line of this, because all of them are dealing with some level of trauma. But because like Master Comac and Orla Jareni are both considered, higher ranks, like Orla's a Wayseeker, and we can get into that later. And then you've got Comac as the only, full on master. But the book shows us that like they are still very much dealing with trauma from their Padawan days, and they've like I imagine in my headcanon that they literally like faked it until they're like, oh, okay, yeah, the creed, and you can recite it, and you know how to meditate, so like you're a Jedi Master now. And then same thing with Orla, where they allowed her to become a Wayseeker. But yeah, they're all like, even down to Reith, the main character, like it starts us off with a very small trauma of him leaving Coruscant and never wanting to leave the Jedi library. And as you go through the book, you get to this more extreme level of trauma of like there are real mistakes with real consequences, and then these Jedi all have to like learn, how do you live with it, how do you move beyond it, and what do you do when the Order's telling you like ignore it, but they also told you you're supposed to feel all of this pain because we don't want to kill anyone or do anything that feeds the dark side. And yeah, it's like a real struggle for them. So I really appreciated that about the book generally.
Yeah, and the thing about this book, because we knew it's about some Jedi that go into a space station and they run into trouble. That's basically the way it was sold. And there's this Jedi that wants to stay in Coruscant reading books. He doesn't crave adventure. That was basically it. So I was waiting for this basic horror story or kind of some mystery thriller in this space station. And the book starts, and the first 30 to 50 pages, they're still on Coruscant waiting for their transport, for the vessel to come and get them. But it's a great introduction, because in those first 30 to 40 pages, you already met all the main characters. You know their motivations. You know why they want to go to Starlight Beacon, to the frontier, why they don't, like Reith. Poor Reith. We all cry for our boy Will Lark in the Alphabet Squadron trilogy. But poor Will, and we'll just jump right into it a little bit. Like you mentioned, trauma of him living his comfortable life in Coruscant. I don't care about adventure. He's good at lightsaber fighting, but just living in the library with all that Jedi, just reading books, that's the only thing I want. I study history, and someone has to protect these books and know the history and all that stuff. I don't want to go out there. I went on a mission with my master first. When I saw who his master was, I forget. I got it written here.
I believe it's a
Jorah Mali.
Jorah, yes.
Which, if you read Light of the Jedi, she doesn't make it. So as soon as I read that he was Jorah Mali's Padawan, I'm like, oh no. It's not gonna end well, because we know what happens when the book tells you, where the book says, "Okay, Reith, you go ahead." Jorah says, "I got something else to do. I'll meet you on Starlight Beacon." I'm like, they're not gonna meet. She's gonna die before then. How's that gonna affect them? And he goes trauma after trauma after trauma. A 17-year-old kid dealing with living his comfortable life and the few friends that he had behind. The death of Raiden in the station, then learning about the death of his master, and then learning about how he betrayed the Jedi and everyone by telling Nan and Hayek that they're Nile, And I talked to her about the Jedi, Coruscant, Starlight Beacon. I gave out in a span of like 4 days, he lost everything. How the hell a 17-year-old kid is going to deal with it? And then on the other side, you have Comac and Orla. 25 years ago, they went through something similar that affected them, and everything happening now. We'll get into that in a few minutes because, anyway, this might be a 3-hour show, even though I just said we'll try to keep it to an hour. So you guys know I do my reviews of my books, and I assign a rating. And I usually do probe droids. Probe droid is my symbol for my show, so I don't give out stars. I give out probe droids. I'm doing something different today, and if you guys might figure this out, it's gonna be fun. So let's start with story. So for story, I gotta give Into the Dark 5 geodes out of 5. Nice. So we're not giving probe droids out today. We're giving out geodes, and Into the Dark gets 5 geodes from me. This story, like I said before, Claudia Gray hasn't missed. And my third show this season, we had Andrew Geha from Outer Rim Reads talking about canon books. And I said my top book is Catalyst by James Luceno. I don't think anything's going to top Catalyst just because of how well it connects to Rogue One. That's what I wanted when they said the canon books are going to connect with the movies. It's an intertwined story. Catalyst works great as the crawl for Rogue One. Nothing's going to top it. I'm sorry, Catalyst. I love you for years. Into the Dark just jumped into that tough spot for me. Like I said, that second half of that book, the way Claudia Gray changed my whole thinking of the Jedi and the Jedi Order by Comax and Orla's journey blew me away. Something I never thought was going to be possible. We'll get to it when we go talking about their journeys and some of the quotes that they said. And it might be things that people, oh yeah, the Jedi are not as great as we think, and they telling people not to feel pain or attachment is wrong. Okay, a lot of people have said that before, and no one changed my mind. The Jedi are the Jedi, and the Jedi Order, you gotta follow it. I'm a Jedi like my father before me. Claudia Gray said, really? This is all. When Cormac says, and I'll read it better later, everything that they go through so this kid can die unmourned, because they didn't want, the Jedi tells them that they can't mourn Death Rider and he's going to die by himself, shoot out of this space station, no one's going to mourn him because that's the Jedi way. It's like, no, that's wrong. And then everything else with Orla, and we'll keep talking about it. But at that point, I said, this book has elevated, and it's that second half alone became my favorite piece of Star Wars storytelling in literary form. So in story alone, 5 geos out of 5. So for you, story-wise, if you had to give a ranking, I know we didn't talk too much about this before, but between 0 and 5, how much would you rate this book?
For me, I would definitely put it in that 4 or 5 range as well. I think it depends how you feel about that kind of horror mystery approach to Star Wars, because it usually does end up becoming such an action type story that I think it was new. But you know, that's also a benefit to it, because I don't typically read those types of books, but I do read Star Wars, so it was nice to have something like fresh in that regard. So yeah, I'd also put it in that 4 or 5 geodes, just depending on personal preference with the mystery format. But otherwise, like once you get over that, if you're not a fan of that, then it is smooth sailing. I finished this book in 2 sittings. I did Light of the Jedi in 3. So even though it's not my favorite format, it just speaks to how great Claudia was at just like nailing the format and the story that she wanted to tell inside of it.
Okay. So right there, we'll jump to ease of reading. And for ease of reading, we'll give it 4 geodes out of 5 for that same reason that you said. It is a young adult book, which I know they get flack for whatever reason. I guess because Twilight was young adults, and that's the cool thing is to hate. But I think young adult novels have become my favorite, at least in Star Wars. I love how easy they are to read. And again, this is Claudia Gray's, just how easy she makes it seem to write Star Wars. Because like you said, you did it in 2 sittings. I think I did it in about 2.5. and I just had to stop because I had to get my kids to bed. If not, we're probably doing it in less. But it's an easy read. You don't get confused in a lot of minutia with some of the. I don't want to knock anyone out there. But I'm reading Victory Prize. It's almost 500 pages long. It's like 460, 470. I've been reading it for about 5 days. I just reached page 200, and it's a good book, but it's very detailed in everything that it's going on, all the space battles. So it's hard for me to just sit and read. Let me read 75 pages or whatever. I gotta take a break. It might be because I'm so into the High Republic right now, they're taking me a little bit longer. But Into the Dark is an easy read, but same as Test of Courage, it doesn't take anything for granted. It doesn't talk down to the audience. It doesn't make it easier just because it's a young adult. It has a lot of the most important themes in Star Wars have been in these two books, talking about the Jedi, the Order, how everything fits together. But it makes it an easier way to read than some of these more detailed books. I always bring up Thrawn, because those are it's Thrawn, you have to write it like that, but those might be a little bit more difficult for some people. If you don't focus too much or you don't like reading too much, those books are not gonna hit for you. Into the Dark for me was a pretty easy read, like you mentioned. So 4 GEODEs out of 5.
Yeah, and I'll definitely echo that for GEODEs for sure. Yeah. It's very smooth reading, and it's, there's not a lot in the book that makes you have to like pull out a visual dictionary or be like, okay, why exactly was that the thing that was the MacGuffin or whatever was next in the story, because Claudia Gray she just keeps it moving.
Yeah, Dale's always stealing my thunder, so I'm glad I got to say that I was doing it in GEODEs before I saw his comment, because as soon as I start, he will say something. Dude, that was 45 minutes from now. But yeah, he's probably going to be leaving early. The guys from Blue Band are doing the Solo 2 AI reading later at 6. So no matter, if you guys need to go watch that, and that's a fun show to watch, then come back later, watch the replay. We'll take your extra views. It doesn't matter. All right, so new characters. There's no way I couldn't give this book 5 GEODEs out of 5 just because of GEODE alone, right?
Absolutely.
But new characters in this book: GEODE, Orla Jareni, Comac, Reith, Des, Afi, Leox. It's all the characters hit for different reasons that we'll get to when we talk about the characters. But yeah, 5 out of 5 for new characters.
Yeah, same. I think like GEODE is a incredible example of like what good writing can do. Mm-hmm. And we can talk about it as we get more into like just the general conversation. But yeah, if anyone, like, I finished that book and I was like, if anyone ever talks any kind of smack about Claudia Gray, like, it's on, because that takes skill. Like, yeah. Regardless, like, there was no concept art that was released, no one gave a press conference and was like, hey, some of these characters are a little out there, like, heads up, Star Wars fans. They literally just let her run with it, and it's a testament that like Star Wars Twitter broke for an evening when they finally released a video about Leox that mentions GEODE, and people were like screen capping that, and we're just like, GEODE, oh my god, GEODE. And it's like, this is a character that we had no heads up about, and to have that much like love, like, you think of like a Rey, right? Like they literally brought Daisy Ridley out. They're like, oh my god, look, it's Rey. They had 1,000 interviews. They gave her the trilogy. They had the whole thing, and people were just as hyped about a rock in a book. So it just great writing. Like, you can't, you're undefeated in my eyes if you can take a character that has no lines. Like, you read the book and it's like, it's not like GEODE just talks at one point or does something that's like, oh, that's not what a rock would do. Like, she is true to the character and how other characters experience them, and doesn't play like cheap gimmicks that way. So it is just pure writing control, like mastery, to get that character to come to life without making it actively move when characters are looking at him.
Yeah, I love that obviously she's the one that wrote it, but the characters in the book, that they don't make it a joke. At first, the Jedi, they're talking to him. I don't know how he pilots the ship. I don't know how he got from this point to that point, but whatever, he did it. So that's fine. And then Afi and Leox, of course, treat him just as a regular person. Hey, GEODE, go do this. Oh, I can't do that. Fly the ship. Oh, no. And then he's the one consoling Affy, I think it is, or Reed,
Yep.
when he's the one consoling. And of course, at the end, he saves Reed going through this opening. So again, like you say, just writing a rock that could have just been a punchline for a bunch of jokes. And I understand some people on Twitter, if this was the first image you saw from Into the Dark, like you said, Into the Dark is coming, and this is our character. Boom, a rock. Okay, this is weird. What the hell are you doing? So I understand that point. But 4 weeks after the novel came out, we know everything. We've read the book. We understand why the character is important. Oh, here's a picture of GEODE. Yeah, and then the other people that haven't read the book don't care. Oh, Lucasfilm sucks and all this hate. Like, dude, no, just read the book. I don't want to read it. Okay, that's fine. Don't read it. But then don't say that it sucks. You can say it looks weird, so I'm not going to purchase it because I don't want to waste my money on a rock. 100%. No.
Yeah.
Lucasfilm sucks, fire everyone because they don't know what they're doing. Go back to the Old Republic, which were the comments I got. I got like 300. I had to mute it. Like, dude, it's just a rocket free stuff for you.
Yeah,
Just keep on. Keep scrolling. Don't care.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, a bunch of grandmas bought little Grogu's because they wanted to dress them up. Like, that's it. Let them live, you know? If I want to spend $20 on a rock and put it on my desk, then all right. Like,
people collect rocks. People go to a museum, they'll sell you rocks for.
Go buy your 50th Revan helmet, and that's great.
Let me cover mine back here. All right.
It's just what you mentioned. Like, it's just let it ride. There's so many characters. Like, go watch another character. That's fine. Just let it go.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go through these ones a little bit quicker. But Canon Connection, give it 4 GEODes out of 5. And this is where the High Republic, especially Light of the Jedi, got a lower score because it's introducing a new era in Star Wars. So it doesn't have a lot to connect to. There were mentions about Coruscant, a lot of planets that we knew and stuff like that. So but now this being the 3rd book, it connects so well to Light of the Jedi, a test of courage. There's still connection to Star Wars that we know. Mention of Coruscant, the mention of Batu Nuts. They're talking about the Jedi and Sith War of the Old Republic. So they're bringing all these connections together that even if it's 200 years in the past, it's still connecting to the Star Wars that we know.
Yeah, and they're kind of that talking about the different idols too. I thought it was interesting because of that connection to, like I thought of Luke in Battlefront 2, where he's picking up and trying to find all of Palpatine's old little hidey holes for different gear and stuff. And it's like, oh, so like the Jedi are also actively collecting, like, can we move this? Can we store it here?
And of course, the station that they go to that we learn is an Amaxine station is referencing the the Rise of Kylo Ren comic by Charles Soule, the station where Snoke is stationed in, that he meets Kylo, or Ben Solo at that point, is this station. Then you see the Drengir are there kind of frozen, and they have skeletons inside from people that they've eaten. So you start learning now a little bit more. It didn't make sense in that book, but this is the background to it. Excellent job again. All right, so with expanding Star Wars, it has to be 5 GEODes out of 5. It expands Star Wars, especially the Jedi views, the Jedi Order, the way that Jedi view the Force and the connection to the living Force and the Order. It just expands it so massively that no way I couldn't give it a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, same. And I'll save all my comments for just a little later, because absolutely, there's so much that gets expanded.
All right. And then to finish, overall, I have to give it a 5. And I know that if you do math, I gave it 2 4s. So if you add and divide and whatever, it doesn't come out to a perfect score. I don't care.
We don't cut GEODes here.
Yeah. GEODE gets an extra 2 points for everyone. So overall, 5 out of 5. Like I said a few minutes ago, this is now my favorite canon book. Into the Dark, perfect for me. Because my stuff with Star Wars, the Jedi and that Jedi and Force lore, and this book just opened up the window. So perfect, 5 out of 5.
Cool. Yeah, same.
All right. So let's get on talking about a few characters. So we talked a little bit about Reed. Actually, before we start about characters, I like talking about my quotes in Star Wars. And we're running long, as always. We've already been talking 45 minutes, but we're having fun here. So I'm just going to highlight about 3 quotes. And I just want to, if there's anything that stood out for you, just let us know, just your thoughts on this. So there's one very interesting that plays again to the Star Wars universe that we know before. I think it's Jorah Mali talking to Reith. Maybe I might be wrong, but they say we work with the Republic, not for them, which is very different from when we meet the Jedi in the prequels. They're working for the Republic. They're the army of the Republic. Even if they say we're not here to fight a war for you, we're here to protect you, they're working for the Republic. They're part of the Republic Army. General Kenobi, General Skywalker. 200 years before, we work with the Republic, not for them. So you can see how 200 years, since a long time, that I guess that barrier, that line between working with and for them starts crumbling, which ends up with Palpatine and Sidious taking over. So that quote is very, very impactful now.
Yeah, I love that distinction as well, because I think that's what made Light of the Jedi so interesting, of just like they were doing stuff with the Republic, but the Republic also knew like we can't just say like Jedi go handle it. They were like always grateful for their help.
Yes, I know. And yeah, like Gailey's saying, I don't know how to spell any of this stuff. Thanks to Audible, I gotta get some because I Marcion Rowe, Ola, I don't know. Like you said, Dale, it's names. All that pronunciation in Star Wars is difficult for these books. But right, so another one that I love is when Orla and Comac are talking about when Des dies. Des Rydan gets shoot out of this airlock, or he gets burnt to a crisp. They don't know. He just disappears. But Orla reaches out. Comac reaches out with the Force, can't feel him. He's gone, and he's just brooding. He's just getting all on top. And Orla doesn't understand why he's getting all these feelings. And his response was that he felt anger at his meaningless death and anger at the Jedi Order for not allowing them to mourn him or others, like his master when she died 25 years ago. The other master said, forget her. She's one with the Force. You should be happy. Let's go deal with it. And said, my master that I've been with her forever just died. I got to leave her in this planet, and no one else will know what happened to her, basically. And I gotta do the same thing with Des. So he goes and say, because the Jedi teaches that caring so much and having those connections are gonna lead to the dark side. So his response is, why? Why should I overcome it? If I cannot feel anger over the loss of such life, then I cannot feel anything at all. The Order asks us to excise the deepest parts of ourselves, and for what? So that a young man might die unmourned. And that is heartbreaking. To feel that the Jedi Order, which are gods, basically, right? That's people view them as heroes, let's put it that way. But for them to tell their group that someone that dies is going to be unmourned, don't form attachment. And this is coming from a Jedi Master, like you mentioned. It's not a new Padawan. It's a battle-hardened Jedi Master that is starting to say, no, the Jedi Order is wrong, because if I have to feel something, I just can't hide it away. And that just spoke to me. And that's when everything started crumbling down for me. My love for the Jedi Order started just crumbling.
Yeah.
When you read that, if you remember, what was your reaction?
I think that was definitely one of those cracks that you see, in the High Republic. Mm-hmm. That's like, okay, I can see where this turns into the Skywalker saga and how like Palpatine and everyone else uses that hook. Because it reminded me of the Martez sisters when they were telling Ahsoka like that we literally lost our parents, and then this Jedi like touches us on the shoulder and is like, the Force will be with you, and then just like jumps away. Yeah, it's like, oh, sorry, still got to get Zero the Hutt, like bye.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like this is that fight, and clearly the Council and the Order still end up, I guess, overruling Comac. Like, I don't know if he ever brings that up again. It's still too early to know, but it's like you're seeing that argument happen in the Order, and they're like, hey, we're letting people just die out in unknown space. In his example, right? Yeah. It's like there's just some dude that died out in the Outer Rim and no one's gonna know. And by the time you get to the Clone Wars, there's people who are dying on Coruscant, and Jedi are still like, I can't mourn this. Like, sorry, I have to go fight Count Dooku, and like off they go.
Yeah, because I think the other masters, and I think I have it for later, it's like, yeah, you should be happy. She's one with the Force.
Right.
Oh, dude. Okay, fine. I still gotta deal with this. No. You're fine. Let's go save these two people that are hostages.
Yeah.
And then another great quote from Orlak is talking about the dark side and the light and all that is the darkness, and this is very similar to, I guess, Luke in The Last Jedi, talking about the darkness is as much a part of the Force as the light. The Order think it can bisect the Force so neatly as though the primal living energy of all existence were a thing to be sliced and served. Does the divide only make the darkness darker, more dangerous than it ever would have been in a stance of nature? Why do you need to separate light and dark so clear cut down the middle? This is light, this is dark, deal with it. No, it's not that simple. By making it this way, then we have that line of anything that you do will tempt you and go to the dark side just because we made up this line, this made up line that anything past this point is considered dark side. No, just let it be. The Force is the Force, and us as Jedi connected to it can balance it. So again, this starts to break down again. What's the light side? What's the dark side? Are the Jedi right by telling them to ignore anything that might lead to the dark when instead of doing it, it's all connected. Let's work our way around it. No, slice up. This is good. This is bad. Deal with it. Yeah. So again, those two quotes just to start crumbling down all this idea of the Jedi is so perfect. Even 200 years ago when the civilized, and we'll get to it in a minute, the civilized world views the Jedi as the Jedi are coming, hope is here, we're safe. So maybe if they did things a little bit different, their own ranks wouldn't be feeling this divide, which then by the time we get to the prequel trilogies, even they hold everything even closer. That's why Anakin falls through the grass, why Qui-Gon starts questioning his everything, because they just, instead of, okay, they might be right, let's loosen a little bit, they just get more rigid as time goes on.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about, I don't know, you want to talk about a few characters or just go, you know what, before we talk about characters, let's go ahead and talk about story-wise. What were some story points or anything that caught your eye, caught your attention? I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the Jedi and them when they meet Nan and Haig, which is this old ward taking care of this young girl, which is about 15 or 16 years old. This old Sabrak reminded me of Maul in Rebels with this little cane, trying to, oh, you're from the frontier, the outer ring, that's the frontier. You guys don't know anything. Let me kind of bring you into what the Republic can do for you guys, and then how everything breaks down. So go ahead and talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, like when we first meet the Nile in this book, they're introduced as one of the ships that are kind of pulled out in the Great Disaster and land by the station. And there's a lot of descriptions, like Comac is as they're scanning Nan's ship and Hag's ship, they realize, like, okay, there's a lot of different pieces, and Comac makes a comment in the book about, like, it's really cool to see how resourceful these people are. And when they first see Nan and Hag outside, like inside the station, they're like, oh wow, like it's incredible that like people who we would have imagined that they would have been dead, but here they are, like making it work with this ship and just kind of piecing it together. And maybe there is hope for the Outer Rim because these people are rough and tumble. And there's a lot of mutual respect is just kind of like how it gets mentioned. No one pulls Reeth off to the side and says, hey, maybe we shouldn't share everything with folks because there is a disaster going on and we need to wrap our heads around it. They like actively encourage Reeth and Des to like let people know how the Jedi work. And this is there's a few quotes in the beginning of like, oh, these are the first way that people can understand what the Republic and the Jedi are. So they're just very excited about it. And I think it's interesting because in light of the Jedi, we are introduced to the Nile as like the clearly evil, right? Like once they figure out that they are doing something with hyperspace, then they're just marked the rest of the book as bad. But Into the Dark really does give you that neutral perspective. And from that neutral point of view, the Jedi are actually pretty impressed with the Nile when you think about it until they have to go back and fight them.
Yeah, it's a great point. Even from the beginning of the book, a little bit, they start talking about, oh, the outer rim, that's the frontier, that's the unknown. We don't know anything that happens over there. People, we got to bring the Starlight Beacon over there, this beacon of hope to bring all those, they don't mention savages or anything like that, but all these people out there, bring them to the fold. Let's bring them to the High Republic. I mean, to the Republic. This, we know what we're doing here. They'll be better with us. And then even you meet Leox and Afi, that for them, the outer rim, that's their home. So that's not the frontier or unknown space. That's where they are from. That's where they feel comfortable. Coruscant was weird, all these people together, this planet, this city-wide planet. The outer rim is my home. And by day, is it a good decision to go out there with this supposed message of hope of let's just bring everyone together? Or are they just trying to colonize? Right? There's a lot of talk now, and I didn't catch it before, all these three books, especially Into the Dark and Light of the Jedi, possible colonization themes of Lina So, the Chancellor, trying to bring all these planets under the banner of the Republic. It's not, hey, this is all the hyperspace lane, and we can all just go back and forth. It's, come on, be part of the Republic. I'm your leader, so you still got to report to me. But now you're good now. You're not out there in the frontier where bad things happen. Oh, there's bandits and pirates and stuff in the frontier. Come to the Republic. I'll take care of you, but you're mine. And then even at the end, and I'm very surprised to see this Queen Thandeka, that was one of the people that were taken hostages 25 years ago. She's on the Starlight opening of the Starlight Beacon opening festivities, and she says, we learned that independence is an illusion, that no one truly stands alone. No one truly stands alone, okay, but saying that we learned that independence is an illusion, it's a very weird thing to say. What? Well, we have, I'm from Puerto Rico. One of our main political parties is the Independent Party. They want to work. We were colonized by Spain when I want to say they discovered us because the Taino Indians were here before. But when Spain came here, we became part of Spain. Then the American-Spanish War happened, and we became part of the United States a little over 100 years ago. Colonized the United States. So are we a colony? Are we a territory? Are we an associated state or something else? There's this battle. Oh, we want to be a state. No, we want to be independent. No, just stay how we are. Yeah. Just let us be. And all this other fighting everywhere. Even we can see it from England, and people now are still crazy about the Queen and the royal family. Who cares? They colonized a bunch of places, and even for decades, they're still fighting, and people trying to be, this is my land, let me deal with it. Is this what we're seeing in Star Wars, that this Starlight Beacon of we are all the Republic is just a way for Lina So and her government to colonize and take over the Outer Rim?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely, after I believe you had Maggie, who brought it up. Yeah, that was. See you later, Dale. So from that moment, I like when I got into the Dark, I was like, okay, let me read it from that like colonizing perspective. And yeah, I think of like when all of the different species were on the station and they were trying to like loot and whatnot. It's like the Jedi got order, but Comac makes a line of like, you either stay here and accept the Republic or you can leave. And if you don't make the choice, we'll make it for you, with, you know, the assumption being that a lightsaber is going to come out soon. But yeah, it's like there's a lot of really subtle lines where it's like the Jedi want to help, but they continue to make that same mistake of like, we will help you, but first bend the knee, for my Game of Thrones folks out there.
And I love, there's also a quote that I think Orla says. I have it, where is it? Anyway, she's talking about, she knows that she can learn something new from every person that she meets. And she said, there's a lot of people in the Jedi Order that say, if you're a Jedi, you're on a lower totem pole. You can't teach us anything. She's on another mindset. I'm going to learn something from, every person that I meet is going to be able to teach me something. And most of the Jedi are not that way. Like you said with Comac, that he goes and he says, let me just levitate for 5 seconds. They can see how great of a person I am, just levitating above them all just to calm them down, and then either stay or go, but you're going to do as we say. So I love my Jedi. They're starting to bring them to a point to dude, there's a way to talk to people and a way not to. And trying to tell them you're high and mighty is not the way. I had the same thing when I read Into the Light. I mean, Light of the Jedi. And we are the Republic. And here come the Jedi. I was like, all those people, yeah, the Jedi here, they're the greatest. And then I think Maggie and Arsu that's going to be here in a few weeks, they're always starting to talk about colonization, how the now might be right. Like, no, that's wrong. Let me think about it. Oh no, Into the Dark. Oh no, Jedi, what are you doing? So yeah, it's there. It's one of those things you can take, and you don't need to enjoy this book on the High Republic so far. You don't need to dig deep that far. You can still read the book for what it is and enjoy it, as the Jedi and the Republic are doing a great thing. But if you want to dig deeper, if you're into the politics and all these other notions, then you can start seeing those themes and how all that can still work in Star Wars and make it interesting.
Yeah. And really the idols are kind of the biggest like notch for me on the colonialism belt, because, you know, just like Europe took materials out of like Africa and like in the slave trade, that really like made that situation worse for those parts of the world. And in the same way, like they literally took the idols out, which then brought the Drengir back. And then they had to realize like, okay, the way that we correct this is we return the idol, the resource, whatever, back to that area. But like that wasn't their knee-jerk reaction, even though they claimed that they don't work for the Republic. Their first reaction was like, oh my God, shiny history thing. Like, let's just take it out of here and study it somewhere else. And then only after they did that, they realized like, no, wait a minute, this is actually not what the balance needs to be. And thankfully, these Jedi, because they've all felt like they've already done something wrong for the Order, decided like, let's, you know, break the idols out and get them back. But if it was their first mistake, I don't think they would have done that. I think that would have been the end of the book. And just like, oh yeah, it's like the best master that thinks they're the best master, and they took the idols, boom, like done, go to Starlight Beacon. But that for me, like when I was looking at through that colonial lens, it was like, yeah, there's been actual history and culture that has left. Like that's why Great Britain has so many incredible museums with early. Yeah, and like that's why they have all these diamonds and jewels, even though like all the emerald mines are in Africa. Like weird, what a coincidence.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like this is literally the exact like the Star Wars equivalent of this culture left something there.
Yeah.
They didn't know why, but the Jedi knew best, so they were just like, this is ours now.
Yeah. So that's also, it was surprising for me when they took the idols and when they left the station. Not for that reason, because again, I'm reading it, I'm not catching all of that as I'm reading it the first time. So I thought most of the book was going to happen in the station and they just leave. I said, okay, it's fine. I still got half a book to go, so I'm going to see what happens. But then once they get back to Coruscant, then everything starts falling apart. So we talked a little bit about Reed. So let's touch on him a little bit more. He gets to the station. He's like, okay, I've been to the Outer Rim. I did my big mission that my master wanted. I don't want to go to Starlight Beacon. So I'm going to write her a letter saying why I don't want to go. Basically just ranting. And at this point, we know that she's dead. So I'm just feeling it for Reed at that point. Like, don't send that letter, dude. You don't know what's awaiting you. He just lost his friend he lost Des a few minutes ago. He's writing this letter. He gets to Coruscant, learns that his master died, and then gets called into the council. And then they tell him about the Nile, how the ships look, how everything is patched up, and the tattoos, and they do things, weird, crazy things with their hair. All these weird people with dyed hair and tattoos everywhere, and that he figures out that that's Nan and Haig. And that's when he says, oh crap, I gave them all this information. I gotta go back there and kill them, basically, because he's not gonna talk to them. I gotta go back there and kill them. Like you said, 2 days before, we were all buddy. Oh, you're evil now because you're the part of this gang of marauders. I'm gonna go kill you now. But again, this is a 70-year-old kid that just went through hell. So he lost everyone that he knew, doesn't know how to deal with it. Yeah. And I don't know, I felt bad for the kid. And then, like you said, there's another reason for them to go back to the station. Now everyone wants to go back. He wants to deal with Nan. Oyla and Comac want to take the idols back, and then Affy, of course, with Leox and GEODE, gotta find more about her parents, that she found some information over there. Cool thing when they bring the idols to Coruscant is that we learned that, I mean, we knew this before, but there's mention of the Jedi Temple being built on top of a Sith temple, how it's a virgins in the Force. They're not created, they're found, and the Jedi and Sith war was a lot about them trying to control these virginces in the Force. Pretty interesting, and I think and hope that we're going to get more about that in the future.
Yeah, I hope so as well. I think of like the Prime Jedi puddle in Last Jedi, and I'm just like, I hope we really get to play a lot more with that, because High Republic is closer to that time where there are Jedi on these different temples and going and having those different conversations. So I hope we dive into that more. But yeah, poor Reath, like he went into it, not wanting any type of adventure. Reading it for the show, I didn't realize he hates bugs. Like I must have just like read it the first time. I was like, okay, sure, whatever. I don't know. Some people hate spiders. That's your thing.
I don't like lizards.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like, oh man, to go through and see like evil, vicious plant zombie things, like no, that's got to be.
It's funny because then he's thinking about, I'm gonna catalog all these new plants on my history book or whatever he's doing, because he does all this stuff and he's all excited. Oh no, they're trying to kill me. Screw you, you're not going to the history books. Erase colonialism again. I'm only going to write what I want. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the vessel and the vessel crew. So we have Leox, Affy, and GEODE. So Leox, we knew that Claudia Gray was writing this Matthew McConaughey type. That's what was said beforehand, and we saw his
his concept art.
Yeah, the concept art that came before, and then what we saw last week. Very easygoing character. You can totally picture what she was going for, but he was also very paternal to Affy. He helped her a lot because she wanted to get more experience going out there managing ships, because she wanted her own ship in this, I forget the name, or this group that her mom ran.
The Bine Guild?
Yeah, the Bine Guild. That wasn't the best place to work. Indentured servants, maybe some slavery over here, but you're free, but you get away from this evil station, and then I'll let you go. Maybe I won't pay you. So, but Leox, especially at the end, when Affy, she's always has searched for acceptance from her stepmother, basically, that raised her, because her parents died when she was young. She didn't know what happened to them. She was raised by the leader of the Bine Guild, and she's always looking for that acceptance. And then she finds that she's not a good person, and everything goes through it. And then, okay, what are we gonna do with this ship? Are we gonna lose it? You're the captain. Aff and Leos go, no, you're the ranking person here. This is your ship. You lead us. And that for her was everything, because she wanted, that's my notes, she wanted to have her own ship and to have Leos just give away his, because no, you're my kid, basically. And she just loved that from him. I had the same sensation from Guardians of the Galaxy 2 when Yondu tells Star-Lord, he might have been your dad, but he was never your daddy, or he might have been your daddy, he was never your father, or something like that. And Star-Lord, Yondu has been the one always there. You don't need to go out searching for this other paternal figure. You've always had in front of you. And I had that same feeling between Affy and Leox, that he was always there for her. It wasn't this other person she was trying to get acceptance from.
Yeah, and she mentions that that's why she even likes being on the vessel, because Leox, all the other captains, like knew that she was Scover's like adopted kid, essentially, so they'd give her preferential treatment, or they wouldn't let her do certain jobs on other ship because it was like viewed as the dirty job or whatnot. And Leox was just like, you have to learn, and this is what it takes to be a part of a crew and be on a ship. And yeah, it's very much like they are definitely equals, and I think that also is what helps like get the reader around on GEODE too, because Leox, we already see that Affy is treated differently by the backstory, and then when you see that Leox and Affy are both giving GEODE that full respect, it just keeps adding on to that, like, okay, this isn't a joke, this isn't You know, like it's not like Leox and Affy are actually pulling tricks on the Jedi and just being like, how long until they realize we're just moving this rock around
little by little, just move it.
Yeah, it's
like, you got 10 seconds, move it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it must be a real crew member, and like there must be some real responsibility that GEODE has, because Affy, you know, she went down and held the coaxium piece on the ship and like had her hands essentially frozen. Yeah, and it's like that. If she did that work and they talked to GEODE like he's expected to do that work, then yeah, it's a lively crew.
Yeah, and I love also when it comes to Star Wars melding with real life, when, oh, we're hiding something back there. No, that's nothing. Oh, yeah, it's spice, but it's medicinal. And then it's what saved Reith. I think it's Reith or Orla on the way back. This medicinal spice that it's banned in the High Republic. I mean, in Coruscant, in the Republic, it's not like marijuana and let's make it legal because there are all these benefits. In some places you can do whatever, other places no, maybe medicinal. It's very real life. And I'm thinking, all this hiding stuff away just for some spice. Oh yeah, it's medicinal. And then having to use it to save someone that if it was the Republic, maybe they say, no, let him die.
We gotta amputate.
Yeah. After you save him, both of you are going to jail. So a little touch there by Claudia Gray. Just bringing real life into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So as we've passed our 1 hour mark, let's talk real quick as we're trying to wind this down. Again, I had 16 pages of notes when I finished reading this book. I brought it down to 6, and I think I probably talked about 2, but it's so much in this book. So the end, and what really got me is we get Des Rydan that was taken by the Drengir, which I love. I'm not going to have time to talk about the Drengir, but I just love them. He was taken by the Drengir, and he was tormented because they're so imbued with the dark side that he felt his connection to the light disappear, basically. He's still part of the Jedi Order, but he has to go and do something called a Barash Vow. That the first time I read about this was, again, another Charles Soule comics, a Darth Vader comics. This Jedi, I forget his name, it's a weird name, goes to this planet, has been there for 10 years, undertaking the Barash Vow, which is basically very similar to what Luke was doing in The Last Jedi, just that Luke cut off his connection with the Force. Here, Des needs to go away, meditate for decades, trying to find that balance and that connection against to the light, because he's afraid that if he doesn't, he might just fall to the dark side again. So it's another way that we start seeing how the Force works. It's not just light side and dark side, and that's it. Or Jedi and Sith, I should say. There's a lot more that go into it. So I really love exploring that and again, it goes to A Test of Courage, another great quote by Skier saying that falling to the dark side is not just a one and done act. It's constant action that determines if you're going to fall to the dark side forever. But Des is at a point that I went so far down that if I don't go and meditate for 10 years or whatever, I might just lose myself to it. So I really love that part. Anything about the Barash Vow or Des journey in this book that interested you?
Yeah, I think it's really the just the way that the character evolved and using like I didn't know too much about the Barash Vow beforehand. So when I did like my research as I was reading the book, I was like, okay, this is super cool. And honestly, when I learned about it, I was like, at the beginning of the book, if I knew that the Barash Vow was in here, I would have probably pegged Reith as the one who was like maybe that's how he gets out of it. And he's like, I've seen too much. I need to meditate. I'm done with this. But instead, it's the happy-go-lucky, adventurous, Des that finally adventures just a little too much. And it just gets to him, and he's like, no, I can't do this anymore, and just like decides to take the vow. So I think it was pretty cool to have that character do it, and I think it leaves the question about balance that Master Jorah mentioned in the beginning. It's still very heavy because it's like, yes, the Barash Vow might have been necessary for Des, but is that really balance, or did he just like go from adventure to knowledge and he never actually like equalized?
So it's a lot. I hope we get more with Des in the future and see how what the Barash Vow really is and what, because he's meditating. Okay, what type of
What if Des gets out of the vow as the High Republic era is starting to come to a close, or maybe like somewhere in the midpoint where he's like, okay, I've done it, I'm neutral again, and he like walks in and the council's on fire.
Again, they have 3 phases of the High Republic. We're just starting, so we'll see. As I was reading and then thinking, because I love the Barash Vow and the Wayseeker so much, I started thinking about this and the Great Jedi, which I don't like too much. This is as close I can get to what a Great Jedi is the Wayseeker. But then I started thinking, even though it's not canon, but who knows in the future, I tried to picture what Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi did after Revenge of the Sith as a type of Barash Vow, because they failed the Order. Kenobi, let's talk about him. He failed not just the Order, he failed his Padawan and his best friend in Anakin. So he's tormented. He doesn't know his place now in the Jedi Order. And he goes to Tatooine for 16, 17 years to look after Luke, haha. But at the same time, he's not doing anything related to the Jedi Order, which there's not a lot. But as we know, there are now more Jedi out there. Kenobi was on his own for all that long, meditating basically in the desert. And Yoda tells Kenobi and Bail Organa, oh, I failed. I gotta go into hiding. He does the same thing on Dagobah. He goes there for even longer to just meditate. So for me, that's I kind of taken their own Barash Vow in a sense, because they're away from the Order, meditating on their failures and what went wrong with the Jedi. Because for Yoda, of course, he messed up everything, not knowing that Sidious was right there. Yeah. So his connection to the Force has to be shaken. So he's going to meditate. So I see it similar to that point also.
Yeah, I agree. I also think like it's interesting that we learn or see both the Wayseeker and the Barash Vow show up in this book, because when you fast forward into the Skywalker saga and like the comics and all the other canon material, Wayseeker doesn't exist anymore. No. Like no one in the Skywalker saga, even in episode 1, is like, maybe Anakin would be a good Wayseeker. Maybe that's, maybe the chosen one needs to not be in the Order and just kind of figure out what the next evolution is. They're like, he's either a Jedi or we just leave him alone and don't train him. So
go take a year abroad and see if that helps.
Yeah, so it's just like, it's very interesting that, we see both of these two things, and it's like one of them will not continue to exist once we get out of this era. But Wayseeker definitely feels like more of what the issue is that these Jedi had in the book of like, I need to explore what the Force actually wants from us. Exactly. And it feels like Wayseeker's the way.
That's why I love the Wayseeker. Because the book starts pretty early on, Orla says, oh, I'm a Wayseeker Jedi, I'm trying to find myself. And sometimes they go and become singers or whatever. Okay, whatever. But as the book goes on and you learn what a Wayseeker truly is, that's what got me. So I said I'm not too fond of the Great Jedi, not about calling someone a Great Jedi. Because for me, and this is before reading Into the Dark, if you have the name Jedi attached to it, you have to follow the Jedi code. Because all Great Jedi, they go back and forth between light and the dark. Then you're not a Jedi, because that's not what the Jedi Order and the code says. Just call yourself something else.
Yeah.
Wayseeker. And here we go. Wayseekers, like you said, they don't know if they follow the Force, because they don't know if what the Jedi Order is telling them is correct. And for Orla, what I love is because we learn in the High Republic that the Force talks to them in different ways. For Avar Kriss, it's a song. For
Buryaga was a tree.
Yeah, a tree in a forest. And for the other Jedi in Light of the Jedi, it's a stormy sea. For Orla, the Force talks to her through her instincts. So she trusts her instinct because that's how the Force talks to her. So when we find out 25 years earlier, they're trying to free these 2 hostages, her instincts are telling her, go deal with the kidnappers first, get them out of the picture, and then save the hostages. But the Jedi Order teaches, no, protect the hostages first, then deal with the kidnappers. Okay, I'm not going to follow my instincts. I'm going to do what the Jedi Order says. They lost one of the hostages. And then she goes, if I had followed my instincts, both of them might be alive. So maybe my instincts, which is the Force, is not wrong. Is the Jedi Order. What does this mean for me in the future? I gotta go figure it out because the living force is one thing, the Jedi Order is different. I gotta follow the living force, and that for me, that's what. Yes, I can get behind this 100%. I love you, Jedi, but the living force, don't mess with it. And that's when I love the Wayseeker formula more than what a great Jedi might be. I love the Barash Vow because it's the other side of it. You're still a Jedi. Your trust has been shaken, the trust in the Force, but you still need to find this connection. It's polar opposites, basically. One is trying to come back to the Order. The other one is kind of going the other way, but still have some type of connection, just trying to see if that's their life. So I just love all that. And the Wayseekers are, yes, please give me more Wayseekers.
Yeah, I really hope, and like the way that they set up Orla's story, I feel like, hopefully we'll get more of her. But yeah, I want to see that Wayseeker story play out and the way that it manifests for her, because that was the beginning of her journey. So it's like we still don't know, is she going to land on a planet and decide to live there forever? Is she gonna, is this going to be like the Mandalorian, where she's going to go to 4, 5, 6 different planets, and whatever she gets into, she gets into. But yeah, it was a super fun rank to see, and I love her lightsaber. It's that dark ray. For those who haven't seen the picture, it's got the parallel white blades, and then it can snap into like that Darth Maul orientation. So
it's really cool. All right. So as we finish up, anything else about Into the Dark that you want to talk about before we say goodbye?
I guess I would just like encourage folks, if you haven't read the book yet and are just looking for something fun, just GEODE. GEODE just brings so much warmth to me. Like I did not know I was gonna love that rock as much in Star Wars, but yeah, like I want to meet his people. I want to see that planet because it's just so intense. And yeah, just it's such a great showing of like what that book is about and what the writing can do. So yeah, if you want a good time, a nice breezy read, because of how well it's written, give it a chance. Fall in love for GEODE.
Yes. And then someone posted on Twitter, someone that works at Lucasfilm, it was, I forget, Phil Stosak, I think, that deals with all the art of books. I think he posted something, I'm not paraphrasing here, so I don't want people jumping on him. But he has a picture of GEODE, and he says that, sentient rocks basically have appeared in Star Wars before because kyber crystals are basically alive. So it's not that far of a stretch. And I'm thinking, can GEODE have a kyber crystal inside of him or something? Because again, why? I want to know more about GEODE and his people. Why is a rock? How does it? Maybe not everything, because we don't need everything explained, but maybe a little bit more. Its connection. I don't know. Give me more GEODE. I think that's what I want to know more about him. All right. So before, let me see. I had one final thing about Comac, which I like Master Comac Virus a lot. Just his whole journey, so heartbreaking also, and it's a lot of our same response that we would say if we were a Jedi and we need to mourn someone. But one of the last thing, Comac believed it was worse than unfair that it was wrong to have master and apprentice spend so much time together, form a bond as close as family, and then don't expect them to become attached. And I think that's very important also as we move forward. Anakin and Obi-Wan, you were my brother, Anakin. I love you, but don't get attached to myself or anyone. You died. Sorry, bye. If you spend your whole life, you're a kid when you start as a Jedi, when you get your master, your formative years, basically, you spend it with this person. But don't get attached. It's not fair. He's right. It's not fair for the Jedi Order to expect this of people.
Yeah.
And that's why Claudia Gray is still the best.
Number one.
Yes. And what I said, they got to give her a show or a movie just to write the screenplay or the story. She doesn't have, she needs to. She gets this. And hot take, I think she understands the world of Star Wars more than Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. Not the history of it, because of course Filoni has the whole history, but writing Star Wars that touches everything, that makes it special, I don't think anyone does it as well as Claudia Gray does right now. Yeah. So please give her something more. I love her books. I don't want her to stop writing books, but give her something that visual format, because I really want to see her story play out on the big screen or TV screen.
Or I even think like elevate her to the story group. Like
Yes.
let her, be in that position where it's like, okay, let's introduce this character here and nudge the story this way, because like into the dark really, really sets up that, that not all is well in the High Republic.
Yes.
And then there's a lot of pieces that are moving and cracks that are starting to show. And like that takes someone who understands Star Wars in such a nuanced way, because this is phase one. She couldn't have Comac just like go on a tear and then be like, yep, there's a crack. Like,
yeah,
it had to be subtle. And not only did she make it subtle, but she just layered it in a really convincing way where it's like, okay, this is going to take time to play out, but I also see where these Jedi might make more mistakes, or they might be haunted. Like if we see Reith again and like 5 years have passed, is he still going to be beating himself up over the fact that he told Nan everything?
So I think the next book by Justina Ireland that comes out this summer, I think it's Out of the Shadows, it might be the name, is Reith and Vern from Bernestra Row from Atesso's Courage. They're the ones leading that book. So we're going to get more Reith, we're going to get more Vern, that they're friends, because there's mention of it. He wants to go to Starlight because he'll be able to be with her friend Bernestra. So we're going to get more Reith. So it will be great to see how his story is playing out. So we didn't get a question this week for our Rebel thoughts, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I'm going to ask you something.
All right.
So Rebel thoughts, when you guys are part of the story, and today we'll have our friend Andres here answer a question, because I think it was you. I want to say it came from Sithty Minutes a few weeks ago, a question about, do you think a Jedi from the High Republic will fall to the dark side? I think someone asked me that question. Yes. I want to say it was you maybe, or someone from your group. And I wanted to talk about the Lost 20 real quick, because we know 20 Jedi that fall out of the Jedi Order. And after reading these first 3 books, well, especially Into the Dark, I think at least half of the Lost 20 are coming from the High Republic, because a lot of them are going to be leaving the Jedi. But so far, do you think any Jedi is going to fall to the dark side, or just leave the Order by the end of this?
My totally irresponsible speculation, when I finished Into the Dark, part of me was like, I hope Orla becomes someone that starts slipping into that, because she in the book, she was the one that kind of struck me the most as like the most plausible choice, because Comac is dealing with like his issues with the Order, but like he's still playing along, right? Like he's a master, he took Reith on at the end of Into the Dark, but Orla is like now traumatized to a point where she asked the council, like, 1, I need to become a Wayseeker, and 2, I need to get out of here.
Give me my ship, the Light Seeker, I'm heading out.
And just, and also like the fact that they put in there that she was one of those people, it's like, I can always learn something from someone else. So like I wonder if those pieces of her personality and the trauma, like what happens if she doesn't deal with it and then she stumbles across something that starts taking her on that journey. Like that'd be kind of cool. I also think of the Disney Plus show The Acolyte, and I was like, that would be cool if like a Wayseeker ends up becoming an acolyte, and then that is what makes the Jedi Council be like, that's it. Like we can't allow people to stray from the teachings anymore. So that'd be interesting. But I think the Wayseekers are probably the biggest, like knowing that they don't exist in the Skywalker saga and how much energy was put into Orla in this book as far as describing the Wayseekers and where she's coming at it from, and just how like wild they can be. You can be a singer, you could be a model airplane enthusiast, and like whatever.
Podcaster.
Yeah. Oh man, could you imagine that? The Force speaks to me as a Audible free book trial. So I just have to do these podcasts and get it out.
But I need at least 50 subscribers weekly to be able to connect to the Force. So please subscribe below.
Please.
All right, man. So I think that's it for the show. Great talking to you. Again, we could have kept going for another hour, just talking about Into the Dark, all the characters. We didn't get to talk about the Dren gear or the Amaxine station.
Yeah, we didn't get to bring up all of our Reith memes. Folks, if you find us on Twitter, we were just memeing it up last night.
Yeah, there was a lot of support Reith, man. What? But there's so much in this book. We can do a second show just talking about it. But again, thanks for being here. Love talking to you guys. Best of luck with your podcast. I hope it keeps getting better. Close to 200 followers on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. So go follow him. So Andres, where can our friends find you?
So my our Twitter account is at Sithty Minutes, no underscore nothing, all one word. My personal Twitter is at AAA underscore photog, photo with a G at the end. And then you can also find our both our podcasts to subscribe to on my website, which is andresalvarez.me. And that will have links to Sithty Minutes as well as some of like my writing, photography, and just other fun things I get into.
All right. So again, thanks for being here. A lot of fun. Hour and a half, almost our longest show this season so far. So thank Andres, thank 60 Minutes. Go follow them, give them a follow. You know where to find us if you're watching this now or later on the replay. Make sure to leave a comment below your thoughts about Into the Dark. Subscribe to the channel. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Radio Rebel Pod, personal account at Tweets by AC. And you can also find my book reviews on my webpage, radiorebellionpodcast.wordpress.com, where I hope to have a review of Victory Prize at some point next week, if I'm able to finish it by then. It's a long one, but I'm almost not even halfway. Well, I'll try to get there. So as always, thanks to you guys. Thanks to the chat. Thanks, Kat, for staying till the end. Great show as always for you guys, making it fun. So like we always say, stay safe, be safe. And may the force be with you.
Radio Rebellion.